So we were able to get show color and show name because we went ahead and abstracted everything out here. So going back to the idea of public, we understand public just allows for anybody else to come, other classes to come and access, which is not necessarily great when it comes to creating this a solid class. Okay, so it's a rule of thumb to make all of your properties private because you want to be able to access them within that class, not from another different class. Okay, we're able to create two different signatures or two different constructors, right? So we have this ball constructor, which is empty, so you can create as many constructors as you want. That's the good news. All right, and in this case, we did this because we were having an issue here with basketball, right, which was inheriting from ball, and because here we have different things, so which you'll understand later. I'll explain later why that was. Okay, so we had to create an empty constructor here, which will be a default constructor, so that this could work or get rid of our error here. Okay, because this one didn't have its own constructor. Okay, so now it's using this empty one. It's fine. Okay, so the main one here is this one here, the constructor that we created. So it takes in the color, name, capacity, and bounce rate. Okay, and assigns to our private instance variables. And then through our behaviors, through methods here, we were able to then show the color and the name from our class here. All right, it's perfect. So of course we went back here. When we say ball.show color, it goes and fetches the color. Ball.show name shows the name, and of course we can keep doing it to get the capacity, but we will obviously have to create the capacity, which I would like you to do that. Okay. All right. So we have this idea now, which is very good, that we have to hide certain things from the outside world because we want to make this black box an actual black box, which is good. This idea here is wonderful to have a constructor. And mind you that all classes that we create in Java, they do have their own constructor, even when you don't tell Java that you need a constructor. So with that said, this is very handy because we were able to create this constructor of the class ball, and remember they must have the same name as the class name. That's how we know it's a constructor. It says public ball, and then we can pass in. The other thing is here, when we go to create our object, we have to do this new ball when we pass in all of these parameters here, which will in turn create our complete ball. Just fine. Now, what if we wanted a more sophisticated way to construct our objects? Meaning, before we were able to just say ball.color and set a color from here. Okay, which was great in a sense, but truly speaking, and as we learned a little bit more about programming and how to hide certain things, we realized that's not a really good thing. But we still like that capability of changing things from here. That's when we go back and look at a different way of doing things, which would be to create getters and setters. Now, these getters and setters will be methods that will allow us to get the data and set the data. That way, instead of us having to rely on every time we want to create an object, because in this case here, if we wanted to create another ball, we'll have to go ball equal new ball and add this, which is nothing wrong, but it will be really cool to have a different way to do this. So we're going to use these getters and setters here. And how do you create getters and setters? Well, you can go back here, highlight everything, right click, and say generate, and look at that. Say getter and setter. Great. Okay. Go ahead and highlight all of them. Say okay. It looks very disorganized. Let's go ahead and organize things here, folks. Let's put it here. There we go. So now we have get color, which returns color, set color, which allows us to enter a string of color, a color type here, okay? And look at this, it goes ahead and sets the color, right? The instance variable color to whatever we're passing here. So essentially, it's doing exactly the same thing that we did here, but in a more flexible way, because now we have methods that do just one thing. This one says set bounce rate, just does that. Get bounce rate, that's all it does. Okay? So now, look at this. Now we can go back here. This still works. I noticed that once we added the getters and setters, and we still have these two different constructors here, and they're still working. That's not a problem at all. In fact, let's go ahead and pull this down here. It's not gonna make any difference, but just for organizational purposes, we're gonna put them here, okay, at the bottom. All right, so we still have everything, still will work. But now, the beauty is, if you go here, this is wonderful. Now, what we can do, check this out. Now I can say ball dot set, look at this, set name. I can right away set a name here. Hello. Now check this out. We did, when we first created this object here, we set a name to be just ball. But check this out. Now we're saying, ball that set name, it's hello. So it's saying, it's going to this object and calling the set name method here and pass in whatever we pass in. In this case, even if you hover over, it tells you right away, hello. That's what it's being passed right now. So that means it's overriding whatever we set first, because now we're setting it to something different. Now we are becoming dynamic. Now we're changing things on the go. So if we save this and run, it says hello. What? Show color. Let's get rid of this so that we don't have too much. See, it says hello. It doesn't say just a ball, because you would think that would happen. Well, it's not anymore, because we're just setting a name dynamically to something else. If we go ahead and say ball, that set name again, new name, if you save, what do you think is going to happen? New name. So we are dynamically changing the name of our ball object. That is powerful, because now we can go and change each particular item, each particular property separately. Right? Now, check this out. We can go and say ball that set bounce rate to 123. We said here bounce rate was 45. Okay, if we go here and say ball, check this out. Say ball. Now, since we do have, these are called getters and setters. If we have setters, that means we have getters. That means we can actually go and get that value we just set. Check this out. So we say, now if we go ahead and say ball that get bounce rate, right? And let's put this inside of a system.out, because that's how it's gonna show. LN, and put it inside here. Let's run this, 123, not 45. Look at that. In fact, this show name here was the method that we created earlier. We don't need that anymore, because we have a get name, right? We have set name, and we have a get name. We can just use it. Get name, just like that. And it's gonna display the same thing. I just want it to be consistent, and that's what's happening here. If we run again, nothing will change, but at least we know we are getting from the same place. So the get name, of course, we have to put inside of a system, because it's just pulling the string, but not showing it. That println. Okay, like that. Run. We should see the same thing. Name, new name, 123. I love it. It's great. Let's keep going. Let's say we want to change the. If we change the color, we haven't. Let's go ahead and get rid of this and change the color. So ball dot set color, right? It's a string we pass in. We can say red. Okay. Of course, we're gonna have to do the same. Or we can just put it all in the same line here, as we know, concatenate everything. I'm gonna go ahead and say ball dot get color. Save. Let's go ahead and actually get rid of this. If we save this, it's gonna say hello red. Okay, we can keep putting stuff as we set things. Let's see, what else do we want to set here? Let's set ball dot set capacity. Oh, bounce rate we've done. Let's do bounce rate since it's at the top. Say 45. Let's differentiate it that way. Well, we actually have already bounce rate, so we don't need that. We can just take this and put it here instead. Oh, not set. Say get bounce rate. Doesn't take anything. That means we have to set here. If not, it will just still get the 45, but we don't want that. So we can say ball that set B bounce rate to 345. Okay, let's set something else. Say ball that set capacity. In this case, let's say 3. Okay, so that means we go back here can just go ahead and say ball.get capacity. And guess what? It's gonna get capacity and save. Let's save and run, and we're gonna see one long line here. It says hello, red, 435 and 3. That's perfect. Now do you see what's going on here? The powerful thing that's happening here? This is pure object-oriented programming, because now we are abstracting everything, right? If we were to give this class ball to somebody else who understands this, it would be easy for them, because they can just say, well, I want a ball. They go ahead and create a ball, right? They could literally go something like this now, because they don't really need that. So what we can do here, we can just go ahead and say ball, and say ball is equal to new ball, just like we did in the beginning. And we're setting everything here. If you wanted to go ahead and do as we did before, which just use the one of our, this one here, this constructor, that's totally fine too. That's absolutely fine. You can. But now we are flexible, smaller. We just created an object, a totally empty object of type ball, and then we start adding things to it. All right, perfect. Now go ahead and explore this idea, and I'll see you in the next video.